If we are to be dragged into a civil war in Syria for humanitarian reasons, I would respectfully remind Senator McCain and the President that they do not have the power to unilaterally start a war. The authority to initiate war is vested by the Constitution exclusively in Congress. Contrary to Defense Secretary Panetta's assertion before the Senate Armed Services Committee the other day, international permission does not trump congressional permission. Syria has not declared war on the United States, nor attacked the United States, our territories, possessions, or armed forces. It is not our responsibility to intervene simply because violence erupts in another nation. If it were, then bombs should be falling on a number of countries, including Yemen, Zimbabwe, Uganda, Sudan, Rwanda, North Korea, Burma, and I could go on and on. Madam Speaker, we could have a war of the week if we went after every tyrant that's committing these kinds of atrocities. We are not the world's policemen. Even if we are willing to ignore the hypocrisy of using military force in Syria for, quote, humanitarian reasons, while we turn a blind eye to the other equally pressing humanitarian crises around the world, there are several practical issues surrounding an operation in Syria that make it ill-advised. And this case should be made to the Congress if the President or Senator McCain push for military action against Syria. When we saw the changes in Libya, we didn't know who was going to take over. We didn't know that Sharia law was going to be the rule of law there, which took them back into a more radical stance. In Egypt, the elections that have taken place after Mubarak has been removed from power have led to the suspicion, very strong suspicion, that Sharia law will be imposed in Egypt as well. We don't know what that will do to the Camp David peace accords and whether or not that could cause our ally Israel to be in more danger. We need to know, before we get into a war, to change regimes, what we're getting in place of the people we're removing. We have found recently from reports that Al-Qaeda forces are in Syria assisting the rebels. Now we have to make sure that if al-Assad goes, that we don't have a base of operations for the enemies of freedom in Syria. We know what we got. We don't like it, but we better be careful before we start making a regime change there that Al-Qaeda doesn't take over or have a big influence in Syria that will cause problems for the United States, our ally Israel, and others in the Middle East later on. I sincerely hope that we are not pushed into a war we do not fully understand and that we don't really need to be in.